The courtyard burned as Aria ran barefoot across the cracked stones, her heart pounding louder than the collapsing walls. Kael shouted, "Don't stop, Aria. Keep running." His voice broke through the roar of fire and clashing steel. Ash fell like black snow while shadows of soldiers fought desperately in the chaos. Lucien appeared at the far end, his dark robes flowing like smoke. Lucien said, "You cannot escape your fate, Aria." Kael spun with his sword raised, his teeth bared in fury. "You'll have to go through me first," he roared. An explosion ripped through the courtyard, throwing Aria and Kael apart. Dazed and choking on smoke, Aria's fingers brushed something warm inside her chest. For a heartbeat, a golden light flickered beneath her skin, hinting at the cursed power she could no longer deny. Silence smothered the forest after the roaring battle. Aria stumbled through the undergrowth, clutching her side, her breaths ragged and shallow. She whispered Kael's name like a prayer, fearing she would never see him again. Branches scratched her arms, and smoke hung heavy in the air behind her. Collapsing to her knees, she wept bitterly, clutching a faintly glowing feather in her trembling hand. The memory of Lucien's voice echoed in her skull, cruel and cold. "Why me?" she screamed into the darkness. The forest gave no answer, but deep inside her chest, a single pulse of fiery warmth stirred, and she knew her fate was bound to the phoenix within her. At dawn, the soft rush of a nearby stream reached Aria's ears. She pushed herself upright, eyes blurry with exhaustion. Kael leaned weakly against a tree, bruised and battered, but alive. Relief surged through her chest as she rushed to his side. Kael whispered, "You're safe now. That's all that matters." She grasped his hand tightly, unwilling to let go. A sudden rustle drew their attention. Rowan emerged from the shadows, his crooked grin breaking the tension. Rowan said, "Well, look who survived the fire." Kael chuckled faintly despite his pain, and for a brief moment, hope flickered between them like fragile sunlight. As they rested, Kael recounted whispers he'd overheard while battling enemy soldiers. Lucien had awakened a forbidden magic, ancient and deadly. Aria's stomach knotted at the sound of his name. Rowan spat, figures that snake would play with fire. Kael's jaw tightened as he scanned the darkened forest. "We have to keep moving before he finds us," he said grimly. Aria's pulse quickened as fear gnawed at her resolve, but she nodded. A lone raven cried above them, its call sharp and mocking, as though the forest itself anticipated their doom. Their journey took them deeper into the heart of the forest, each step driven by urgency and unspoken dread. Aria could not shake Lucien's words, his voice a cold whisper that followed her even in silence. Kael walked ahead, his every movement taut with determination. Rowan lagged slightly behind, muttering complaints, but never truly falling back. As dusk fell, they reached ancient ruins hidden beneath gnarled roots. The crumbling temple walls glowed faintly with strange runes. Kael murmured, "This place may hold the answers we seek or destroy us." Aria's breath caught, knowing their path forward would be forged in fire and blood. The forest grew darker as Aria followed Kael through the twisting roots and hanging moss, her mind still heavy with fear. Rowan muttered complaints while swatting at biting insects. Aria stumbled when a sudden warmth surged through her veins, her vision blurring with golden light. Kael caught her before she fell and asked, "What's happening to you?" Aria gasped, "It's burning inside me, like fire trying to escape." Rowan froze, eyes wide, and whispered, "That doesn't seem normal." Aria clenched her fists as faint sparks danced around her fingertips. Kael said, "Control it, Aria, before it consumes you." Her breath quickened as a burst of flame erupted, leaving blackened marks on the earth. Aria stared at her trembling hands, terrified of herself and the power she could no longer deny. As night deepened, they reached a secluded glade, lit by glowing mushrooms and ancient stones. An elderly figure stepped from the mist, leaning on a wooden staff. Aria froze as the mentor's calm voice broke the silence. The mentor said, "I've been waiting for you, child of fire." Kael lowered his sword, but stayed protectively close. Rowan muttered, "Another cryptic old mystic, just what we needed." The mentor's eyes glimmered with wisdom as he studied Aria. "Your power must be guided, or it will devour everything you love." Aria's voice trembled. "Can you teach me?" The mentor nodded slowly. "If you're willing to face the truth about yourself." The air thickened with magic, and Aria felt hope spark within her fear. The night passed in restless silence until dawn's first light streamed through the trees. Aria sat with Kael near the edge of a shimmering pond, away from Rowan's teasing remarks. Kael's voice was low and steady. "You're stronger than you realize," he said. Aria looked at him, unsure. "What if my power hurts you?" she whispered. Kael's expression softened. "I would stand in the fire for you, Aria." Tears filled her eyes at his words. He reached out, brushing soot from her cheek with a trembling hand. For a heartbeat, the world stilled around them, the bond between them burning brighter than the dawn. Later that morning, Rowan returned from scouting with a dramatic sigh. "You two look like a tragic painting," he teased, earning a glare from Kael. Aria chuckled despite herself, the tension lifting for a brief moment. Rowan dropped a bundle of wild berries into her lap and said, "Breakfast, courtesy of my heroic efforts." Kael muttered, "More like luck than skill." Rowan smirked and sprawled dramatically on a nearby rock. "I'm the glue holding this team together," he declared. Aria laughed, her heart lighter. For the first time since the fire, she felt like a fragile thread of normalcy might exist. Even as danger loomed, their small group felt like family. As afternoon shadows stretched long, the group prepared to leave the glade. The mentor's expression grew grave. "Lucien moves swiftly," he warned. "He seeks the artifact buried in these lands." Kael's jaw tightened as he said, "Then we'll stop him before he reaches it." Rowan muttered, "Easy to say, harder to do." Aria clutched her chest, feeling the echo of her earlier power surge. "If this artifact ties to my curse," she said softly, "then we can't let him have it." The mentor nodded solemnly. "Your bond to the Phoenix will be tested beyond anything you imagine." With those words, the group set off into the deepening woods, a sense of foreboding thick in the air. The path twisted into a ravine where mist clung to jagged rocks, muffling every sound. Aria felt a strange hum beneath her feet, like a heartbeat buried deep in the earth. Kael raised his hand, signaling silence, his eyes scanning the shadows. Rowan frowned, whispering, "Why does this place feel wrong?" Suddenly, a burst of pale blue light erupted ahead, revealing carvings of phoenix wings etched into the stone walls. Aria gasped and stepped forward, her fingers brushing the glowing symbols. A whispering voice echoed through the ravine, ancient and cold. Kael pulled her back sharply. "It's a trap," he warned. Rowan stumbled backward as a dark mist coalesced into a shifting figure. The shapeshifter's laughter filled the air, a sound both mocking and strange, sending chills down their spines. The shapeshifter's form flickered between shapes, faces twisting in and out of existence. Aria stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Who are you?" The figure shifted into Aria's exact likeness and whispered, "I am what you fear most." Kael moved to shield Aria, his sword ready. Rowan's hands shook as he muttered, "This is beyond creepy." The shapeshifter laughed, her tone both mocking and sorrowful. "Lucien seeks the phoenix heart," she hissed, "and you carry the key." Aria's breath caught. "What do you mean?" she demanded. Before the figure could answer, a violent gust of wind scattered the mist. When it cleared, the shapeshifter was gone, leaving only silence and the fading glow of runes. Kael's grip on Aria's hand tightened, his eyes full of unspoken fears. Later, as they traveled through the dense woods, Aria's mind reeled from the encounter. Kael walked silently beside her, his jaw tense. Rowan kicked at fallen leaves, muttering, "That thing is going to haunt my nightmares." Aria whispered, "She said Lucien seeks the phoenix heart, and that I carry the key." Kael's eyes darkened. "We can't trust her words. She's a deceiver." Rowan frowned. But what if she was telling the truth? Their argument was cut short when the trees parted, revealing an abandoned watchtower. Kael said, "We'll rest here for the night." As they entered, Aria noticed symbols etched into the stone floor, identical to those from the ravine. Her stomach turned as realization dawned. Someone had been watching them. As darkness deepened, Rowan began setting up camp, his usual humor returning. He balanced a cooking pot on uneven stones and said, "Behold, a feast fit for heroes." Aria couldn't help but laugh softly, the sound easing the heavy air. Kael shook his head, but allowed a faint smile to break his stern expression. Rowan continued, "If we survive this cursed journey, I expect a statue in my honor." Aria replied, "Maybe a small one." The group shared a moment of quiet laughter, but beneath it lay the unspoken tension of their mission. Even as Rowan's antics brought brief levity, they all knew danger stalked them beyond the flickering campfire light. As the group settled, Kael's head snapped up at the distant sound of rustling leaves. His voice was low and sharp. "Stay quiet." Aria froze, clutching the pendant at her neck. Rowan whispered nervously, "Tell me that's just the wind." From the shadows, Lucien emerged, his presence cold and commanding. "Running will only delay the inevitable," Lucien said, his voice smooth as silk. Kael rose to face him, sword gleaming in the firelight. Aria's breath caught as Lucien's eyes locked on hers, filled with both menace and strange longing. "You hold power you don't understand," he murmured. Before Kael could strike, Lucien vanished into swirling mist, leaving behind only the echo of his cruel laughter and the chilling promise of pursuit. Dawn broke with a crimson sky as the group journeyed through the ruins of an ancient battlefield. Aria kept glancing over her shoulder, the shapeshifter's mocking words gnawing at her thoughts. Kael walked ahead, silent but visibly tense. Rowan kicked at a rusted helmet buried in the dirt and muttered, "This place reeks of bad memories." Aria whispered, "It feels like the ground itself remembers the blood spilled here." Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed around them. The shapeshifter appeared, her form shifting between faces Aria recognized. "Your trust blinds you," she hissed. Kael drew his sword, stepping protectively in front of Aria. Rowan's hands twitched toward his dagger, uncertain. The shapeshifter's cold laughter filled the air. "One of you hides a truth so dark it will tear you apart." The shapeshifter's words sank like poison into the group's minds. Aria's pulse thundered as she demanded, "What are you talking about?" The shapeshifter's form shifted to mimic Kael, her voice now his. "He has secrets he won't tell you," she sneered. Kael lunged forward, striking at her illusion, but his blade cut only mist. Rowan yelled, "This is insane." The shapeshifter dissolved into swirling smoke, her final words lingering. "Ask him about the night of the first fire." Aria turned to Kael, her voice breaking. "What does she mean?" Kael's face hardened with pain. "I wanted to protect you," he said quietly. "But the truth, it will destroy us both." Aria's tears burned as betrayal and confusion clashed within her heart. As they pressed forward in silence, the ruins gave way to a stone bridge suspended over a fiery chasm. From the shadows emerged a familiar figure. The fallen hero, once Kael's closest ally. Aria's breath caught. "Darius," she whispered. Darius' face was twisted with regret and anger. "I tried to protect you once, Aria," he said, voice heavy with sorrow. Kael stepped forward, rage flashing in his eyes. "You betrayed us all." Darius' hands trembled as he raised a blade, wreathed in dark flames. "Lucien showed me truths you were too blind to see." Aria pleaded, "You don't have to fight us." Darius's jaw clenched. "I have no choice." The bridge shook as the first clash of blades rang out. Sparks flew as Kael and Darius clashed again and again, the sound of their battle echoing through the canyon. Aria cried out, "Stop! This isn't the way!" Darius' face twisted in pain. "You don't understand, Aria. Lucien will destroy everything unless I obey him." Kael gritted his teeth and forced Darius back. "You always had a choice," Kael growled. Rowan darted forward to drag Aria from the edge as rocks crumbled beneath her feet. Darius hesitated, his weapon lowering for a brief moment. "I never wanted this," he admitted, tears mixing with soot on his face. A shadow fell over them as Lucien's laughter echoed from the abyss below, promising further torment. The bridge began to collapse, forcing everyone to retreat. Darius turned to face Lucien's looming form as the villain appeared amidst smoke and fire. Lucien's voice was calm and chilling. "You've served your purpose, Darius." Aria screamed, "No," but it was too late. Lucien struck, sending Darius plunging into the abyss below. Kael lunged forward, barely catching Aria as she collapsed in despair. Rowan's face went pale, his usual humor gone. Lucien smiled cruelly. "The phoenix heart will be mine," he declared, before vanishing in a swirl of dark mist. Aria clutched Kael, grief and rage twisting inside her. In that moment, she swore to stop Lucien, no matter the cost. The group staggered through the dark forest, their faces hollow with grief, after Darius' fall. Aria clung to Kael's arm, her body trembling, but her heart burned with fury. Rowan broke the silence, his voice rough. "We should turn back. We can't face Lucien like this." Kael didn't answer, his jaw set and his steps unyielding. Aria whispered, "We can't let Darius's death be in vain." Rowan kicked a fallen branch, muttering. He was doomed the moment he followed Lucien. As they emerged into a clearing, Aria froze. Blackened trees formed a circle around a strange, smoldering altar. A cruel message was etched into the stone. "The phoenix will burn for me." Kael tightened his grip on his sword. "He's taunting us," he said grimly. Kael inspected the altar while Rowan scanned the tree line nervously. Aria felt a whispering heat inside her chest, the same sensation she had felt before her powers surged. "He's close," she whispered, shivering. Rowan grabbed her arm. "Then we need to run before he finds us." Kael shook his head firmly. "If we keep running, Lucien will just destroy more lives." Rowan's voice cracked. "So what's the plan? Fight him head on?" Kael met his gaze with unyielding determination. "We stop him here, no matter what it takes." A sudden crack of branches sent Rowan sprawling backward. A dark figure lunged from the shadows, and Kael moved with lightning speed to intercept. "Stay behind me," Kael roared, sword clashing against steel, in a violent burst of sparks. After defeating the assassin, the group retreated to a hidden cave. Tension hung heavy in the damp air as Kael paced. Aria sat apart, hugging her knees, her heart aching. Rowan crouched near the entrance, watching for danger. Finally, Aria spoke, her voice breaking. "Kael, why didn't you tell me the truth about the first fire?" Kael froze, his shoulders stiffening. Rowan glanced between them uneasily. Kael whispered, "I thought I could protect you by hiding it." Aria's tears fell silently. "You should have trusted me." Kael reached for her, but she pulled back, shaking her head. "If you lie again, I'll never forgive you." The silence that followed was more painful than any blade, a rift forming between them that neither knew how to heal. The cave trembled as Lucien's dark magic surged outside. The mentor appeared suddenly, his face pale with urgency. "He's coming," the mentor said. Kael grabbed his sword while Rowan scrambled to his feet. Aria rushed to the mentor. "How do we stop him?" The mentor's voice was steady but sorrowful. "There is a ritual, but it demands a sacrifice." Aria's breath caught. "Whose sacrifice?" The mentor looked at her with pain in his eyes. "The phoenix must burn once more," Rowan shouted. "No, there has to be another way." Kael's expression hardened. "We'll find another path," he vowed. Outside, Lucien's mocking laughter rolled through the night, a promise of destruction closing in around them. As the group emerged from the cave, the night was alive with firelight and shadow. Lucien's forces gathered at the edge of the clearing, their dark magic twisting the air. Aria stepped forward, her eyes blazing with inner fire. Rowan whispered, "You don't have to do this." Aria shook her head. "This ends tonight." Kael grasped her hand tightly. "I will fight beside you, no matter what happens. Lucien appeared atop a mound of smoldering earth, his voice cold and triumphant. "Come to me, Phoenix, and burn the world anew." Aria lifted her chin, tears mixing with determination. "You will never control me," she declared. The first clash of magic and steel ignited the battlefield in a storm of light and fury. The battlefield lay silent for a moment before the storm. Aria stood at the forefront, her chest rising and falling as flames flickered beneath her skin. Kael adjusted his grip on his sword, his expression grim but resolute. Rowan swallowed hard, his usual humor replaced by dread. The mentor stepped forward, his staff glowing faintly. "This is the moment," he said softly. "The phoenix within you will either save us or destroy us all." Aria's voice shook as she whispered, "What if I fail?" Kael placed his hand over hers. "You won't," he said firmly. Rowan muttered, "No pressure, huh?" earning a faint, strained smile from Aria. From the distance, Lucien's armies surged, a tide of darkness ready to consume them. The final battle was about to begin. As the group readied their defenses, the mentor began to chant, ancient words resonating through the ground. Aria closed her eyes, feeling the phoenix fire within her respond to the rhythm. Rowan moved to set traps along the edge of the field, muttering to himself, "If I live through this, I deserve a feast." Kael stood near Aria, his sword raised, every muscle tense. "Stay close to me," he told her. The mentor's voice grew louder. "When the moment comes, you must release the fire willingly, Aria." Lucien's forces burst from the mist with a roar, and the first clash of steel rang out. Aria opened her eyes, now glowing like molten gold. "I won't let him take everything," she vowed, fire swirling around her hands. Amid the chaos, Kael fought fiercely, cutting through enemy soldiers, his gaze never leaving Aria. Aria moved like living flame, her power surging in waves. Rowan darted through the shadows, striking when foes least expected. Suddenly, Lucien appeared before Aria, his eyes gleaming with cruel triumph. "You were always mine, Phoenix," he hissed. Aria's chest tightened as his magic coiled around her, pulling her toward him. Kael shouted, "Let her go," and lunged, but Lucien threw him back with a violent blast. Aria screamed, the phoenix fire within her flaring so bright it blinded everyone nearby. Lucien's grip faltered, and Aria gasped, "You will never control me." Kael stumbled to his feet and reached for her hand. "We fight together," he vowed, his voice raw with emotion. Lucien snarled and unleashed his full power, darkness spreading across the battlefield. Like a living shadow, Aria screamed as the phoenix fire surged, meeting his magic in a blinding clash. Kael fought through the tide of enemies to reach her, his sword cutting a path. Rowan dragged an injured soldier to safety while shouting, "Aria, don't burn yourself out." The mentor raised his staff, channeling light to shield them. Lucien's voice boomed, "The world will burn, and you will burn with it." Aria's tears mingled with sweat as she pushed back. "I am not your weapon," she cried. In a final surge of strength, she broke free, unleashing a storm of golden fire that illuminated the sky, casting Lucien's shadow into stark relief. The battlefield fell silent as Lucien staggered, his magic faltering under the weight of Aria's unleashed power. Kael reached her side, his chest heaving. "It's over," he said, though his voice trembled. Lucien laughed weakly, his form flickering. "They will rise again, even if you destroy me." With a final scream, Lucien dissolved into ash and shadow. Aria collapsed, exhausted. Kael caught her before she fell, cradling her gently. Rowan limped toward them, his face pale but relieved. The mentor knelt beside Aria, placing a hand on her brow. "The fire is now yours alone to command," he said softly. Aria opened her eyes, golden embers glowing within. "Then, I will use it to heal what was broken," she vowed through tears. The battlefield lay silent, except for the soft crackle of dying embers. Aria stood amidst the ashes, her crimson dress torn, and her body trembling from exhaustion. Kael moved carefully to her side, his expression etched with concern. Rowan limped toward them, clutching his arm and wincing with each step. The mentor slowly approached, his staff tapping softly against the ground. "It is done," he said, his voice filled with both relief and sorrow. Aria's eyes welled with tears as she whispered, "Lucien is gone. But at such a cost." Kael placed his hand over hers and murmured, "We survived because of you." Rowan gave a shaky laugh. "Barely," he muttered, though his eyes glistened. The dawn light broke through smoke, casting warmth over their weary faces. As the group rested among the ruins, Rowan sat apart, staring at the ground. When Aria approached, he looked up, his usual smirk absent. "I thought I'd never see the sunrise again," he admitted quietly. Aria knelt beside him, offering a small smile. "You saved lives today, Rowan," she said gently. Rowan rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Maybe, but I was terrified the whole time." Kael joined them, his voice steady. "Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it." Rowan gave a short laugh. "Look at you, all wise now." The three shared a quiet moment, the bond between them stronger for what they had endured. For the first time in days, Rowan's grin returned, soft but genuine. At the edge of the battlefield, they found what remained of Darius's weapon. Aria knelt, brushing ash from the charred blade, tears streaking her face. Kael stood silently behind her, his expression a mixture of grief and anger. Rowan removed his hat, in a rare gesture of respect. The mentor bowed his head, his voice heavy. He was lost to darkness, yet a part of him fought to the end. Aria whispered, "I wish I could have saved him." Kael placed a hand on her shoulder. "You gave him peace when no one else could." She set the blade carefully among the ruins, a silent promise that his sacrifice would not be forgotten. Rowan murmured, "Let's hope his spirit finds rest." Later, Aria and Kael stood apart from the others beneath a towering oak. The air was quiet except for the rustle of leaves. Kael took her hands gently, his voice trembling. "I thought I'd lost you," he admitted. Aria's heart ached as she whispered, "I was afraid of losing myself." Kael's gaze softened, filled with both love and pain. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Tears spilled down Aria's cheeks, but her smile was radiant. "Together," she agreed. In that moment, the bond between them felt unbreakable, forged in fire and sacrifice. Kael leaned down and kissed her softly, the world falling away until there was only the warmth of their love. As the sun rose fully, the group began their journey away from the battlefield. Rowan walked ahead, whistling a quiet tune, his steps lighter than before. The mentor lingered behind, his wise gaze sweeping over the land they had fought to save. Aria paused at the crest of a hill and turned back one last time. The burned valley stretched below, now bathed in golden light. She whispered to herself, "From ashes we rise." Kael joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Together they walked forward, leaving behind the scars of war, but carrying the fire of hope. The wind carried the faintest echo of wings, a promise that the phoenix's spirit would never truly fade.